was saying before, the NDIS is a very huge opportunity for our company. But if I go back a step, it's an absolute nightmare to shuffle through the bureaucracy of it and the scheme, and at every level, whether you're a provider trying to provide a service or whether you're an eligible participant in, that meets the criteria for NDIS, it's quite difficult. And because it's been rolled out, it's such a huge thing that's been rolled out from scratch, and they've been doing it, they've been learning along the ways. Everything from the website to get yourself registered if you're a participant or a provider, to training up thousands and thousands of people across the country to be LACs and sport coordinators and all the things that go into, it's difficult. And even just to register your company, it took us 3 to 4 weeks just to get ourselves registered. And I'm not just saying time-wise, it took 3 weeks of work, to be on it, to get ourselves registered, and that was our number one goal, probably 20 hours a week for 3 weeks of work just to get the company registered. And now that we are, it's easy to register providers and locations and things like that. There's still lots of holes in the thing. An example is Blacktown, Ashfield are on the same ABN number, but we still can't have different locations. It's so, because it's on the same. They're just website problems, so they have lots and lots of teething problems. But the truth is, because it's difficult, there's so few providers so far out there that have taken the time to understand it and learn it. And so what we're going to go through today is the things that we've learned about NDIS and what the opportunities are, which also leads into why, although it's been really for the last couple of years, the multidisciplinary practices where the direction that we knew where we're going, it's why now we know that this is the direction that is needed, and how we're going to be able to do that. Okay. So I'm going to hand over to Tracy, and Tracy, firstly, Tracy's going to become our NDIS coordinator in the whole company. Okay. Tracy's been, right from the start when we realised we wanted to do this, we basically sat down and went, this is difficult, but if we get our heads around it, there's a real opportunity here. And that opportunity started in Goulburn, and we've realised, and we're starting to see the rewards. So last week, Tracy made 1 contact and got 8 occupational therapy referrals, which some of them will lead into treatment as well as assessments, occupational therapy assessments, and 8 speech pathology clients, which will become ongoing, weekly or fortnightly for the whole year, and through one contact. And what we're finding out there is that there's lots of these independent providers. You might be a speech pathologist, or you might be an OT or a physio, and if you've just been working you've got a full load, you're quite good. Why? They're just looking at how much work it takes to become accredited and go, why would I bother? I'm already busy. And from us as a company, we've built Tracy up to be our NDIS coordinator who can take this and really has been able to sort through all the junk to get through and create a procedure and a system that we can do. Now, don't get me wrong, there'll be a whole lot of things that each provider will need to do, but the majority of it is all in that initial assessment. And we're going to go through that today, and then after that, you've got literally 12 months. Once you've got a plan approved, again, you've got 12 months with the person. No reports are needed in the every 4 weeks to be sent out. No new management plans need to be done. You literally can work on just providing the treatment service. We will create some quality assurances around reports, but they're not mandatory under NDIS. And so this is the opportunity that we have. Tracy's going to take us through, explain the NDIS 101, and then work through the plan. So let's go, Trace.
Hello, everyone. All right, so NDIS, as Mark said, it is minefield. It's dealing with government and lots of different agencies and things, so it is been a fun learning time. So basically it's a new way of providing supports and disability supports, and it's aimed at taking a lifetime approach. So it's something that's actually going to be looking at plans over their lifetime. So where we used to have funding come from, say, cerebral palsy or autism or, normal Department of Community Services and things like that, social services they call themselves now, this is all now becoming the way of people are being funded. So funding can range from...
Yeah, so that's probably to explain that better. These organisations used to just get lump sum group funding. Cerebral Palsy Alliance would get $20 million and they would have to run programs of people who had cerebral palsy who were eligible to fit under their programs. Now that whole model's changed in the NDIS, where the funding gets given to the person and they now have the choice to go to whoever. Now the Cerebral Palsy Alliances and things like that still can provide the services, but the people have to choose to go there, but they now have the choice to go to have a choice, where previously the only source of funding was that they had to go to the Cerebral Palsy Alliance. Now they have the choice to go to whoever they want over the course.
Which is much better because there's competitive rates and there'll be a higher level of care rather than people just getting whoever and wherever they get told to go.
So types of funding and things is, maintaining informed support, so in-home care that they've got, access to community services, so whether it is looking at helping them do job seeking, improve community skills. It's things that basically are necessarily unreasonable. So it won't cover anything that is classified as a normal cost, so it won't cover food, it won't cover electricity. It will cover things like transport if that's needed, aids, assistance, therapies, all those types of things. But it definitely won't cover anything that they classify as a reasonable service. It also has to be approved by the NDIS as an approved item if it's something that they're wanting to get. So the NDIS, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme, they are managed by the National Disability Insurance Agency, who are governed by the National Disability Services. So just so we know that there is a nice big trail of it. Spacebar Tracy. Okay, the rollout. So where is it? So it started in July last year, and it's rolled out through local government districts. So that's how it's set as to where it's going to. So all these places currently have it or are certainly coming on board. Some of you guys probably fall into those areas. I don't know where everybody is.
Yeah, so Blacktown, Warrington fall into Western Sydney.
Yep.
Obviously Southwest Sydney is Campbelltown. So it actually has been rolled out in those areas. And we've all had a few inquiries that have come through both of those facilities. And then Goulburn, wherever we are, and that Ewing, Southern Ireland, Southern New South Wales.
Yes.
So,
and this is where it will be coming as of July this year. So Illawarra, I know we're saying for Sutherland and things, so that comes under South Eastern Sydney, and that will be the rest of basically New South Wales.
yeah, so our South East Sydney is Sarah at Sylvania, and our Sydney falls into Ashfield. Okay, and Homebush is in a unique situation because Auburn Council falls under Western Sydney and Strathfield Council falls under Sydney City. So Homebush being right on the border of both those councils, I don't actually know which one we actually are in, but basically anything west of us there at Olympic Park is being eligible, and anything east isn't. So just because we fall outside of, if we might fall in, I think we are in Strathfield Council, I think so. Even though we fall in there, it's where the person lives, not where your clinic is situated. Okay, so that if you're registered and eligible, they can come to you there at home. So
The other thing is also to remember that even though this doesn't start in some areas until July, clients can actually already be applying for their plans. So they can apply for plans up to 6 months before it's rolled out into an area. So there may be people that are already getting started. Okay, so who can apply? You need to be under the age of 65, an Australian citizen, and have a disability, basically is the criteria. It has to be a disability that will be with you for life and substantially impacts how you manage everyday activities. The other option is also what they've rolled out is called an early intervention program. That is more aged at the 0 to 7-year-olds, but there are some people that are getting early intervention. So we've got a client here with MS, so she's eligible for it. It is a lifetime condition and things on those lines, but it's also looking at sort of some of that early intervention stuff as far as giving balance and mobility and things on those lines. So it is a very, very wide range of people and services. They're also of the opinion that if they're happy to support you now, meaning less supports might be needed in the future. There are options.
That's a really good point. Sorry to keep interrupting, but that's a really good point, and that's in theory what the NDIS is about. You know, we've used this so many times. If you can delay diabetes by 5 years in someone, the statistics show you that you save the healthcare system in the last 5 years of that person's life $130,000. Why? Because the complications of severe diabetes, kidney dialysis, hospitalisation, amputation, blow the costs out the water. So the same principle applies with the NDIS. If they can go in early intervention, keep the person working longer so that they're not on disability, get the people that can get into jobs, appropriate employment so they're not on disability pensions. Just because you're not on a pension doesn't mean that you're not eligible for NDIS funding for treatment services, and therefore also delay the onset of symptoms dramatically. So just think about that when you're treating someone, and explain that, well, this is what it's doing. It's, to someone with Down syndrome, and we know that the complications, the heart conditions and diabetes that a lot of kids and young adults with Down syndrome end up getting. But if we can prevent those other symptoms, then we're actually playing a whole part in the lowering the health costs in this country. So think of the social responsibilities we have as well, and we can play. Sorry to keep interrupting.
That's right. So ADIC, which is Age Disability Healthcare, are still operating and are still looking after over 65s and are still assisting people who are not meeting NDIS quality guidelines. So even though the answer might get rejected, there is still an option as to where they can go to for more information. Okay, so having a plan created can be a lengthy process. So first point is that the person is identified, usually at this stage they're identified by the NDIA, National Disability Insurance Agency, who are then sending the information out to local area coordinators. At the moment, Uniting, St Paul, St Vincent's, and Future Services are the three that are contracted with the government to provide local area coordination support. So the local area coordinator will basically sit down with you and go through who you are, what you have and what you want. So they usually say to the participant, before you come in for the meeting, have a good think about the services that you want or that you think you need, whether it be respite, wheelchair, weight management services, physio, hydro, speech, transportation,
home modifications.
Yeah, home mods, everything, and then they'll sit down with the client and actually have this conversation and put together a plan that goes through information about me, what are my goals and what do I want. So they try and put together as much information as they can to be able to then submit the plan for the next step.
So in a management plan for a work cover, the local area coordinators are the ones that sit down with the person and write that plan, okay, and submit it for approval to them.
So from there, the plan then goes into NDIA, the agency, and they will review the information. They do have OTs and things working with them. They do have, qualified people. They look at it and go, okay, what's reasonable? So they're not going to give a person with a slight disability of, $6,000 mobility chair, but they might, approve to give them basic walkers and things on those lines. So it is stuff that's reasonable. A few points on the plans coming out of NDIA that I'm finding is they seem to be a little bit of an initial plan. So budgets are coming out quite low. It's the first time doing them where it's a gauge of what it is. So what I have been hearing from them is that they have already started looking at doing plan reviews for all the people with plans in place. So when you see a plan, you might see it and it will come back for therapy supports as only $2,000. You're going to go, well, that's going to last about 4 or 5 months. It's not enough. Don't be alarmed with it. You can have a plan review within the 12-month period of the plan. So while it is set at that amount of money and that time frame, if there is a reasonable justification to have it extended, NDIA will review it and look at increasing it.
Yeah, something I found with that is I've got a large fellow that I'm working with who's going to need a lot longer than a couple of months to try and lose the weight that he needs to be able to get back to working. And so a lot of the time it's the patient driving what they want. So like, I think I need this, I think I need that, I think I need this, I think I need that. And then often when you sit down with him, he doesn't need an occupational therapist. He needs an exercise physiologist. And so being able to sit down and talk with them, talk with their doctor and talk with their support worker, you can submit some information to get a review.
The other thing that we've done for a couple of clients at the initial point when they start talking about NDIS and things is we've actually said we'll give you some documentation to take to your local area coordinator to submit with the plan to the agency.
Yeah.
So we've put in place to say that this person needs 3 times a week supervised treatment for this amount of time sort of thing, and all the conditions and all the reasons why. And the benefit of it being that they were already existing client was that we were able to say this is what they were when they started, this is where they are now. So we've demonstrated how it has improved. So once we have our plan, it then comes back and we then have support coordinators who help you implement the plan. Support coordinator is a very generalised support caseworker, shall we say. So normally all these clients had case managers who would help them with everything. Support coordinators are a lot more removed from that. So one, the client has to have this funded in their plan. It's not everyone that gets it. You've got to be funded to get help to implement your plan. I've met a couple of the ladies, so I found when they came into the meeting, it was more that I was addressing the client, and I found that the support coordinator, Jo, just sort of said, how does that sound to you? Are you happy with that? So when I posed questions to her, it was all a bit overwhelming and things, so sometimes she just said yes, but Jo would pull it back and say, are you happy with this? So do you think this sounds like, a reasonable thing for Christiane? So they will help guide them. They will help get them in contact with suppliers and things. They will help to give them options. They're not allowed to say, I've made you an appointment to go and see this doctor on this day. They can't take that full control. The thing that starts to get a little bit confusing is that now we've got some companies coming up, and they're more in Sydney, and Mark has met with one of them, so he might be able to tell you a little bit more about them, that are actually popping up and being LACs and support coordinators. So they will actually, they will take you from the beginning to the end. They'll take you through the whole process. So there are a lot of companies now popping up. I'm trying to find out how I can get lists of them and things like that so I can share them, but Google is not being very friendly with me. But it is something that these companies again are taking on the role of being there for the client for the whole way through.
Basically, the support coordinator, if we try to think about it, but not everyone needs a support coordinator. You can manage your own case if you're an NDIS participant. Okay, you may decide, no, you work with your LAC to get your plan approved, and you get allocated your certain amount of funding in each area, and you might have $6,000 or in for treatment, and you know exactly what you want. Okay, let's just use a Troy Cook. He's got an upper management job with DeVals. Like, he's a smart guy. Like, manages 600 trucks or something like that. Like, he's an intellect. Just because he's got a spinal injury doesn't mean he's not. You know, he's a very smart. He can manage his own case. Okay, and there's plenty of people out there who do it, or a parent or a guardian will manage the case, and you may not need a support coordinator, and they're going to go and find what's the best for them. But there's also many people out there that may have intellectual disabilities, or people that just don't understand the system, and they've brought the support coordinator in to be really like it's almost the equivalent of your rehab provider, to be that neutral position about trying to help and match up services. And so it's, you know, these people can have a very strong impact on guiding to getting the services and actually helping. What you actually need, you've got 6,000, well, let's look at what we can do. What do we want for that? And just because it fits in, you've got $6,000 for treatment services, they can choose to use that however they want. Remember, it comes back to the participant can choose to go to whoever they want. They no longer have to go to cerebral palsy. They can go, heard of this great physio in Western Sydney who specialises in cerebral palsy patients they want, or they've heard of this hydrotherapy pool at Blacktown that's got underwater treadmills, and you know what, I really feel that's where I want to go. So they, you know, they can do this. So these support coordinators, does that probably give a clear idea of what the support coordinator's role is? And although you guys don't, you know, once they come to you, they'll already be ready in front of you. It's just sort of getting a comprehension of what that role is.
Okay, so us and the NDIS. So we will be looking at, we are registered now for EP, physio, speech, OT, diet and podiatry for NDIS. We are at this stage looking at having our podiatrist Tim possibly go to Campbelltown, I think, and we're looking at contracting speech and OT in Sydney, potentially using ours here. Morgan and Kate, who starts with us in.
Initially, we're certainly going to start with our OT, doing the initial assessments. It's probably going to be hard for Morgan to do it, you know, long term, because majority of speech pathologists require regular weekly where we can book the OT in for an assessment. And although there is some therapeutic services involved in OT, it's a you know, assessment we can certainly do and have them booked in and spend a day or two down there in Sydney.
So we will slowly be able to roll all that out. And
yeah, but it's very, very clear that I guess it comes down to, are you going into why? Okay, why we're going to roll, why we need the other services? I'll do that now. Okay, I feel like I'm cutting off, but sorry. And this comes down to what I was saying before in the core element of who we are. Okay, and why we're going into, we're going to have podiatry. Occupational therapy is an absolute must as part of the NDIS team. Speech pathology, EP, hydro, physio, okay, potentially look at contracting in some psychologists as well. Now, if we contract people in, they will still be registered under us, okay, Optimum Health Solutions. At Blacktown and Campbelltown, we've already got it all sorted, that Gavin Williams and Stephen, the physios that sort of work within the centres, they're going to be registered as physios under Optimum Health Solutions. So when they come, the service will be treated by them, that they're registered, the plan gets done by us. Now, why is it important that we have all these services? there's a patient treatment argument, and then there's a business model argument. What we've realised is that the majority of people who get a NDIS plan need multiple services. Okay, just about everyone in this initial plan needs an OT assessment. Okay, it's part of the rolling out, and a lot of them will be able to just go into treatment service, but many will need OT assessments on a yearly basis. But just about every single plan, they want a home modification assessment done and all that sort of stuff. The OT is also a very crucial part in making recommendations on the treatment services. So someone's got a spinal injury and they haven't got appropriate bars and stuff in their shower, or they need a shower chair, or do they need a hoist to get them out in and out of their chair, and all those sorts of things. OT comes back and goes, all right, we need all this done, does all the drawings and gets it costed up under the NDIS. But what's going to go with the treatment? Well, this person needs physiotherapy, it needs hydrotherapy, they need exercise physiology program, and they're a crucial part of doing it. If we have those services, we can then get the people from through the whole spectrum of treatment through the thing. The other thing is we've also come to the realisation that the majority of people need more than one service. So if you just think if you're a stroke patient and you're getting your physical rehabilitation, but you also need your speech pathology, to get you back talking and communicating properly. If you're a Down syndrome or something like that, speech pathology and physical services. What's that little girl that you started with?
Really?
Yeah, she Down
Downs,
syndrome.
yeah.
So it's just, how old is she?
She's 2.
So literally this Down syndrome started speech, but even though she's not under NDIS, she's under early intervention yet, but there'll come a time where some treatment services and physical services will be included into her. She's pretty mobile.
Yeah, she only ran to the gym yesterday, so.
She's awesome. So understanding this is the ability now. Well, why can't they go see a speech pathologist somewhere and see their hydrotherapy with us and go somewhere else? The fact is there's not enough money in their funding generally. Okay, and what we've come to the realisation is, and this came out, is that if we can provide more than one service, the other realisation is the amount of people that have kids that have one person ineligible, that have more than one, is probably 60 or 70%. It's something, whether it's genetic or whether it's, but then multiple children, multiple people in families are having the same, falling under the NDIS program, and so it comes a convenience for the person. If you're having to do 2 or 3 appointments in a week and going to different places versus being able to do the treatment plan at the same location, have multiple services, it will actually not only, and in our case, the ability to do half sessions and maybe half with William and into the hydrotherapy pool with Ashley or whatever under the same billable session is still be the same time for us. The ability to combine sessions is you can actually say, we're getting a full service fee out of it, but the person's not having to pay 2 full service fees. Maybe different in speech and OT, you may not be half and half, but the whole principle is by having multiple services, we can meet the community needs. In our meeting we had with a support coordinator last week, we were going through the benefits, and he's just like, one of the big things they've realised is transportation costs. The transportation funding model has changed. Does anyone know what the old funding model was? Transportation was called transport. Now it falls under NDIS, and what they're realising is they're not getting much. Used to sort of have unlimited cab charges and things like that. They used to just jump in cabs and go to appointments and things like that. But now you've got your block funding, and it might be $4,000 for the year. If you're going to catch cab for your transportation, and you've got to go to 3 appointments a week, even if it's $15 or $20 to go locally each way, pretty quickly you're spending $120, $130 a week on taxis. And that $120 a week is $6,000. So what happens at 8 months when you run out of your funding? Okay, so the ability to be able to is a huge thing, and that was the feedback that we had from the support coordinator who came and met with us last week. Was it is a huge thing that they're realising of how to manage and ability to be able to provide these services under the one roof. Yes, the OT, when doing assessment, will probably go out to the home. Yes, that's, and do that. But for regular services, the ability to do, if we can provide them all in our facility, then that's what we're doing. So it's actually there's a patient care model, but there's also a business model, and how they actually merge is really important.
Okay, so we will move on to what our process is going to be. So it really does start with the initial conversation. There are a range of different options, so I'm pretty sure I've covered all the different ones. So, first option really is, the first question in all of our sort of things is, do you have your NDIS plan? We just need to make sure that they've got their plan to start with. If the answer is no, we can ask them, do you have a local area coordinator? Are you okay with managing your plan? If they say yes, not a problem. Once your plan is in place, give us a call and we can organise appointments, or if you know that your plan is coming through the next week, do you want to make an appointment for a fortnight's time?
Take the number and follow up with them if the answer is no.
The second option is if they say no, I'm really not okay with it, I don't know what's happening, I'm quite confused, then the option is that they can talk to me. Now, I can help explain the process, and I may be able to assist with their plan and things like that. It's really hard if it's just sitting with NDIA, it really is hard for me to find out where it's up to, where we're moving and things on those lines. So I do stress, if you can, say that I may.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they're so lost and they've got no idea, they've heard that they've got a disability, they've heard the NDIS, and they've gone in and just saw that they live down the road and they wanted to, oh, can you help me? Because they're at that initial stages and they've really got no idea because it is actually very confusing for a lot of people because they've had different funding in different areas before, and I've got a disability and I want to go on NDIS. Going through this process and saying, if no, would you like me to speak? Our NDIS coordinator can give you a call. So
yeah, so the thing then that, so what I've done at this stage is I've set up in front desk under Goulburn, I've now got a tab, and you are able to book clients in for an appointment. So being that they're half-hour slots, and being that I'm still doing admin and things here, if you can explain to the client that, yep, I can book you in for Tuesday between, 1 and 2, or 1 and 1:30, Tracy will give you a call between that half hour. Okay, if I can't make that commitment and things like that, I'll certainly contact them and say, look, I need to reschedule for whatever reason, or can we talk now that I've called, is this a convenient time, and I'll manage that side of it. But you can book people in to talk through the process of things with me. As Mark said, if they're brand new to it, I can help give them a general outline and guideline and go through the process. Because
into an LAC.
Yeah, because it can turn into a 10-15 minute conversation. And I know that none of you guys have the time to really be standing there doing that and going through that process. So I'm happy to do that. Everyone okay with that? Cool. Okay, so the next stage is that their plan is approved. And what service would you like? They only want one service. I just want EP. I only need physio. Those types of things. That will happen, that will come up as far as what they say. What we're doing is that we're booking them in for an hour and a half. We're allowing an hour and a half. So it's still only an hour consult, but we're allowing an hour and a half. That extra half hour could be to do the service agreement that will go into the end. It could be reporting, it could be that it just has taken that little bit longer. Now, I know I've written EP up there, and I have a feeling that I need to check the prices because I'm pretty sure we have to do the one-on-one EP price for that.
146.
Yes, 146, I remembered that at about 2 o'clock this morning. So I will amend that for you all.
The point is you're booking them in with the practitioner
Yes.
that they're asking the service for.
Yep.
Okay? And then the practitioner is responsible for doing this next step, not Tracy. If they only need one service, because they've made the decision, they know that they need physio, we book them in for their session.
Now, having said that, I would still, during your assessment, so let's go through the initial conversation first, we'll go through the next part in a minute. Alright, the next option is that they want 2 services. So I'm looking at exercise and physio. At this time, what we're going to do is actually refer it on to facility managers, and that the manager will then coordinate appointments. So what we want to try and do is we don't want to have a person come for an EP hour assessment and a physio hour assessment, because it could be very similar. It could also be that during the EP consultation they're going to go, no, you're not ready for this yet, you need physio, or the physio is going to say, you're past what I can do, you need to be doing, hydro and treatment in the gym. So by able to communicate and by able to consolidate it, we can then sort of do perhaps a dual appointment, or we could even do half and half and things along those lines.
But when you're going to manage multiple services that they're looking for, and when you're asking them, we're going to give the facility manager is the training, as it says, training to become for facility manager. We're going to train the facility manager up in how to coordinate the multiple services, because it's not complicated. It's basic common sense, but it's complicated in you have to manage school times, pick up, transportation, work out what the appointments are, whether it's half and half can be fitted in, or whether they're full appointments. It can be completely different. Speech pathology and hydrotherapy have nothing to do with each other, but so the ability to do them on the same day is fine. And they're 2 completely different appointments, but it actually will save them $40 in transportation costs. But it's the whole coordination of the program. We're going to give that responsibility to the facility managers to do.
And can I add something there too? Like Mark was saying earlier, a lot of the time they do have siblings that are having services as
So it
well.
could be that we're doing
So you might
multiple.
be booking one in with the physio, one in with the EP, and one in with the OT, but the mum wants them all booked on the same time.
So that probably the
hour.
same thing applies to
So,
multiple people in the same
Yeah.
family. So you're doing it all together.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
we're
she
giving
can
that
have a
facility manager the opportunity.
Alright, so the last option really is that they say that they want OT or multiple services, at which time it's going to come through to me. So you're going to say that I'm going to need to book you in with our NDIS coordinator, I think I'm now being called, so I just put specialist in because I didn't know what to put there, and I'll contact them to discuss their needs. So the reason for this is that when it comes to OT, it's not just, you need an OT assessment, no problem, I'll book you in for an hour. They might need an OT assessment because they're now in a wheelchair and their whole kitchen needs to be redesigned because the bench heights are too high. They need ramps in and out of their house, they need a car modification, we've got a client whose hearing is a problem, so she needs to have a lighting system sort of put in place so she knows if there's people outside at night at the front door, she can't hear the doorbell. The scope of what it can actually be is huge. So what I've been doing is I've been collating as much information as I can as to what they want. What are the things that you want to have changed? What do you want to have assessed? I then pass that on to the OT, and the OT then says, okay, that's going to take me 4 hours to do that assessment, and I'm probably going to need another 4 hours of report writing. Their report writing is plans, they have to actually investigate all the different materials, so all the different aids that need to be used, they have to research that, they have to get quotes for that. So their reports are really, really in depth, and as Mark said, they pretty much before you can have anything done and changed and things like that to your house or cars or any aids, all have to be OT approved. So they have to be very detailed in what they do. So that's the only time that we're actually charging per hour $160 each hour. So it's a massive amount of money out of their budget. So if you've got someone who needs a lot of OT assessments done, as well as all the other services, and they've only got $3,000 or $4,000 in it, I can guarantee you're going to want to have a conversation about having their plan reviewed, which is usually what I've been
We had an
suggesting.
OT that billed for 10 hours assessment, okay, at $160 an hour. So, and it was 6 hours at the home and 4 hours of report writing. And she reckons she took longer, but we're not billing for more than that because we gave 10 hours as the quote. So the whole thing is, it's got to come through Tracy, because you can't just book in for an hour and a half and if something's going to take and leave it halfway. So it's got to be get a guesstimate on the time it's going to take based on what the requirements are. Okay, work with the OT on booking in a time, so for them to go out to do that. Also give them an estimated cost, because imagine a $1,600 bill when they've actually only got $4,000 allocated into all their treatment services. Now, a lot of them will have assessment allocated separately. We're also finding that. But imagine a $1,600 bill and they're all, but they need to know that this is, but also can be explained things like, well, okay, from the OT, we can potentially put a resubmission in for more funding if, certain things occur. So OT has to come, if you get an OT assessment, it has to come back through Tracy, because she will then coordinate our contractors or our OT to do that as well. So because it's so that you can't just book it in. Someone needs a physio, find an hour and a half spot and book it in to do their plan with them or agreement with them.
So we've had that initial conversation, that's just booking the appointment, things on those lines. So now we actually move on to the next stage. So we need to tell them to bring in a copy of their NDIS plan. Now, it's completely voluntary for the person to share their plan. I find people have sometimes been a little bit hesitant to share the plan because of all the financial information on there. I explained to them that when I log on to the NDIS system, I can see all the financial information. What I can't see is the first part, which is the part about me. And that's the most useful part for you guys, to actually be able to look at it in advance and see what the conditions are, see what this person's goals are, where they're at in life, all that type of stuff. You're going into the consultation already in front. So I explain it to them in that sense. I've not had a single person not give me their plan after explaining that to them. It's so much more helpful. It makes the appointment much more effective and things move better.
Brad's got one NDIS and she got no problem in the plan.
EPC report.
Yep.
The management plan.
Yep. I just had, they were just a little bit, I was told told not to give it out. So it's like, okay, that's fine, that's no problem. And I explained it to them and they were like, oh, okay. And I've said to them, if you just want to give me the first part, you can keep the second part. I can see it, but
truth is I can go on the computer and look at it.
You're not saying, but if that's what they want to do, that's fine.
It's kind of silly, they don't really want to, it doesn't matter how much money they got, they want to see what they want to achieve.
Well,
That's the
exactly.
most important part.
Exactly, yes, it is support, process driven. Alright, so once we have that, you've got the plan. The next thing we will need to organise before the appointment is the service agreement. So at the moment this has the address for here, which I will change and have set up for everyone. Yep, just pass it back up if you still have more. I know there's probably.
Okay, so this isn't the plan. They've already got their plan approved. But what you've got to do is every single person needs to have a service agreement between the provider that they're undergoing work with and the client.
So this is unfortunately mandatory. We do have to do this, but I know it looks a lot. It really is not that much for you guys to do. So before the appointment starts, you can have who the service agreement is for, which is the participant's name. Okay, so in this scenario, Tim's going to be the participant, so we would write Tim Roberts in there. And then we might also have, the participant might have a guardian, so Mark is actually looking after this for Tim. So we would have Mark's name there with Optimum Health Solutions. We're putting it down as just all of us, so that way it helps to cover one agreement, we can move it around. When it will start, when it will finish, So it commences on, and we're expecting this plan to run for, I
To
don't
the
know.
end of wherever their plan
Yep,
is.
I'd usually use the end of the plan date, it's a great idea, but it could also be
Shorter if you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
whatever needs to be.
Oh, yeah, it's an example, okay, we wanting to move people and progress, it might be that you're gonna do physio for 4 weeks and then go into hydrotherapy with the idea to go into exercise physiology gym. If you were a person that was getting different from different locations, and that you wanna do physio for 4 weeks and into hydrotherapy, you're gonna go to, there might be a case where you put, the time frame would be only for 4 weeks, and so you're agreeing to do that. In the event that, you know, if we're able to service the whole thing, it may be, because you notice at the back, you'll actually write that time frame out, you know, what the plan is that you're gonna do.
So the next part is simply a tick box. Yes, they've given me the plan. Might know if they don't
Front
want to.
page still, front page.
Front page still, yep. Then it goes through this schedule support. So what it's saying is that we agree to provide the participant, and we just list it all. Exercise physiologist for 12 months, physio for 3 months, OT for whatever, speech for as it goes. This is literally straight off the NDIS website, so this is not anything that is specific that we've done. I've tried to keep it as much as their template as possible, so that way they can all go into the toolkit to look at it, and it's much easier to manage. The responsibility of the providers, it's really nothing that we don't already do. It's just simply outlining it all, that, you know, that we'll review their needs every however often, which you would do with your clients anyway. You would do, you know, fitness assessments or reviews. It's that we're going to communicate honestly and openly, treat the person courteously, respectfully. You've got to remember that because this is the government agency, it's all about making everyone feel supported and treated equally and loved and things on those lines. So it does go through a lot of that sort of stuff. Talking about changing appointments, and it also talks about ending the service agreement. So if for any reason they need to end it, they're moving away, things on those lines, it gives them the outlines of how that needs to happen. The responsibility of the participant is really just the exact same in reverse. So there's not much to it there. Alright, the next page, payments. This is where the fun starts. So there are basically 4 ways in which a person can have their money managed.